Tonight, I just want to answer one question. Why are we still fucking with Cuba?
I ask the same exact question. It's wild how much we fuck with Cuba and how much we have fucked with Cuba. Both are fascinating. And for a little bit, it looked like we were going to stop fucking with Cuba, and then we just went right back at it.
Well, you see, because Obama was doing that, and so Trump had to undo it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is that petty. I think there's maybe some people that were happy about it, like the Cuban exiles in America. There's some thought to that constituency, but mostly I think it was a spite thing on Donald Trump's part, right? That's kind of what motivates him in every decision.
Welcome to Info Hazard. I am your host, Danny, and with me are my co-hosts, Phil and David. Say hello, guys.
Hello, guys.
All right, so, we're here to answer why we're fucking with Cuba. So let's go straight to the horse's mouth, the horse being the U.S. government, and let's see what we have in terms of justification. So I'm going to quote a United States Department of the Treasury release memo. I don't know. This is what the U.S. Department of the Treasury says on the embargo. From June 2019, they say Cuba continues to play a destabilizing role in the Western Hemisphere, providing a communist foothold in the region and propping up U.S. adversaries in places like Venezuela and Nicaragua by fomenting instability, undermining the rule of law, and suppressing democratic processes. The U.S. government has made a strategic decision to reverse the loosening of sanctions and other restrictions on the Cuban regime. These actions will help to keep U.S. dollars out of the hands of Cuban military, intelligence, and security services.
It's just so out of time. Why are we worried about a communist incursion anymore? It has been proven to not be the big deal we made it out for the entire Cold War. Why is that still the reasoning?
Yeah, that was what jumped out to me too, is that immediate Grandpa called and he wants his foreign policy back.
I'm kind of curious, they had a couple items in there that I don't know anything about, right? So undermining democracy in Nicaragua.
See, that's what the CIA was mad about, dude. That's their job.
Yeah. How dare you?
Right. I don't know anything about that. And it wouldn't be super shocking if they were actually undermining democracy in Nicaragua.
Yeah. So that's I went into this kind of thinking Cuba's the underdog, probably the U.S. are the bastards in this situation. And so I came out of it after all this research thinking everyone's a bastard in this situation.
That's usually whenever I learn anything about international stuff. I just did a segment on the Middle East and everyone's a bastard. Oy.
Yeah, the Cuba, from what I recall, they did send military support to Venezuela, right? That's
they sent doctors mostly is the big thing they gave Venezuela. They have a really good supply of well-trained doctors, and they...
Come on.
I'm not kidding.
Are they the bastards for that? What are we talking about?
They're the bastards for killing protesters and extrajudicially executing regime opponents and, the usual repressive regime shit, which they do quite a bit of. It does seem like. So as an example, when I was reading about this, so in order to prove that they weren't just show trials, Castro had this really public trial in a football stadium of these pilots who were accused of bombing a village during the Civil War. And during this, they were found not guilty. So he had a retrial and they were found guilty. That kind of thing. So the Cuban regime are not saints, but they also are not worse than all sorts of shit the U.S. does all the time.
What's
specifically to Cuba?
I'm kind of impressed that they still are at it. It's impressive how long the U.S. has been at it, but it's how long the U.S. has been at it and unsuccessfully, right?
Yeah, so this blockade started in 1960. They instituted an arms embargo in 1958 or 59, and then the general embargo started in 1960, and it's been going basically continuously ever since. So 66 years. It's the longest running embargo in modern history.
It is really, really difficult for an economy to operate in global trade without using U.S. institutions.
Also, they don't get to participate in global trade because the U.S. sanctions anyone who trades with them.
Right, but I think that this shadow fleet of whatever vessels that have their transponders turned off go between Venezuela and Cuba and Russia, and I think that it's not actually totally isolated from...
No, not totally, but it's rough for them, in summary.
And when you're relying on a fleet with its transponders turned off, for getting out in and out critical goods. Like that's more costly than just running
Yeah,
through regular channels.
that's right.
It makes it harder, and it makes it hard. And like the Cuban government has provided kind of, considering their limitations, has provided remarkable services for their citizens. Is kind of why they've been operating this long. Like they have that reputation for high quality, publicly available health care.
Nationalized healthcare. That's why we can't do it here. I mean, it just shows that.
Yeah, that's the communist foothold they're talking about.
I mean, like, I don't like to admit it, but like every time I submit my bill to the Congress that just says free healthcare, please, there's like a little subsection in really small print that says also Raul Castro gets to run the country, but they catch it every time.
Thank goodness.
That's why we don't have it.
Yeah. So part of why this came up now is so this worsened recently because Donald Trump signed an executive order that tariffs any country that allows oil to go to them. And then he also has basically seized control of Venezuelan oil or whatever it seems like. And anyway, they're not getting oil anymore. And the whole country is kind of running out of electricity all the time. They're having a really rough go of it. Yeah. So that's where we are. Now I want to look a little more at how we got here. So a very brief thumbnail sketch of Cuban history leading up to this. They were sort of democratic. They elected a guy named Batista. He peacefully stepped down at the end of his term and went to Florida, but then he came back and took over the country a little bit later, and he was very repressive, and there were a lot of rebels against him, including Fidel Castro, who ended up on top in the Civil War. The U.S. has always had a strong interest in Cuba because it's only 90 miles south of Florida, and also we kicked the Spanish out in the Spanish-American War, and American businesses moved in, and they owned most of the land, or lots of the land, and they used it to grow sugar, and then they processed the sugar, and they made boatloads of money. There were oil refineries there, and basically American companies made shitloads of money, and Cuban people made no money. And so Castro was like, this is fucked up. And the U.S. is like, oh my God, he's a communist. We have to stop him. And so they cut the amount of sugar they were going to import from Cuba. And then Castro's like, fuck you. And he appropriated the land for the sugar. And then they were like, okay, well, you can't have oil anymore. And they told the U.S. oil companies not to operate the refineries there to allow, to refine the oil. And so then Castro seized the refineries and thereby committing the worst crime possible in America, stealing from rich people, which is the genesis of this, I think, basically, is this is what the U.S. cites as its grievance in this whole thing, is that they stole our stuff and they got to give us money back.
It sounds very similar to Venezuela. These grudges got extended over decades, and like the American companies still lay claim to these assets. Is that true in Cuba as it is in Venezuela?
Certainly, it seems like these bills have until American people are made whole on their debts owed by the Cuban government, this will continue. So
I feel like a refinery from the 50s is probably not that useful anymore.
Yeah, but see, they could have operated that refinery and made a ton of money, and then they could have invested that money and been even richer. These poor oil executives were in the poorhouse because of Castro. I'm sure they were all completely broke and crying afterwards.
But what you're saying is seize oil refineries, it's a victimless crime, right?
Oh, I don't know. It depends on who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to the government of an impoverished country who's just watching all their money get vacuumed out of the ground and sent somewhere else, it's kind of hard to make a case to them that property rights invented in Europe 600 years ago dictate that all of you have to sit in poverty while we take all your resources away, right?
Yeah, the neat thing about this trade-off is you can seize the assets and then be put under backbreaking sanctions for the next several decades, thus impoverishing your country, or you can let the Americans take all your money and impoverish your country. So it's like a really cool trade-off you get to make.
Right. I mean, normal people, of course, are losers in both scenarios. It's the winners under this current scenario are just the elites in Cuba anyway.
Exactly, dude. That's when we put
Also the
sanctions
Americans.
on Iraq. It was Saddam Hussein who was starving there, right? Lack of medicine. All right. So anyway, back to how this started. Lester D. Mallory, who was a diplomat, wrote an internal memo arguing in favor of an embargo to, quote, make the greatest inroads in denying money and supplies to Cuba, to decrease monetary and real wages, to bring about hunger, desperation, and overthrow of the government.
So
wait, that was recently? That was Trump?
No, that was 1960. I was saying
That's
Okay.
how
how
the
we got here.
embargo started.
Yep.
So do you think, whatever, quick analogy, do you think we'll be blockading or embargoing Iran for 60 years from now?
God. Yeah, so that was an obvious parallel I was going to draw at some point. So I guess we should do it here. Yeah, I don't think Trump has the patience to do anything for 60 years for sure.
Well, he
Much
won't
less
be
the
here.
lifetime.
He's so unpopular. Like, if you just reverse any policy he does, like, the American people will be happy, I think. Like, yeah.
I mean, this is one where it's like what he's done is driven. So, the little spiky things when you go into the parking lot? It's like he's driven America like right here. And the
No,
parking
we've
lot,
totally slashed the tires.
the parking
We've
lot
done
sucks.
permanent damage.
My point is backing out would also would be a problem, but also the parking lot is full of homeless people who are going to shit in America's
He's
car.
been doing
That's what I'm
burnouts
saying.
on caltrops, I think, is really what's been going on. We could reverse with basically negligible. Like, the damage is done, is what I'm saying. Reversing is the course.
Okay. Yeah. So in 1960, they wanted to bring about hunger and desperation, right? So first of all, I just want to make a quick note. That's not what I want my government to do. I don't want them to try and starve people. That's fucked up.
I mean, they're thinking of it as instrumental. I mean, this is like all sanctions have like an impoverishing effect, right?
Yeah. And I fucking
like-
hate
Yeah.
that. And I don't think we should do this kind of sanctions, like the blockade embargo.
Yeah,
No,
what this
like-
is doing is intentionally killing civilians. Like, if you do that with a fine product of Raytheon, that's a war crime. But if you do it by blocking off their banks, that's just politics.
That's so right. I mean, they see this as an alternative to war, right? They have like, and it's not intent. You mean, yeah, the words here make it sound. I mean, they're very. What's the word?
Heartless? Monstrous?
They're very heartless and monstrous. But
you
it's
know
like,
why it sounds that way? Because it is.
right. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of curious. Like, what do you think is a good way of dealing with, like, let's say, enemies? Like,
But they weren't our enemies. They're
enemy
still not
states.
really our enemies. Dude.
well, but let's say they were, or imagine hypothetically someone else is, right? Like,
I mean,
for example, like should the U.S. have sanctioned Nazi Germany before, in the 1930s? Like, would that have been a reasonable thing? It's like, oh, I mean, it will
Well,
have the
so
effect
it's-
of causing German civilians to starve, right?
I mean, it's interesting you bring that up because what caused the United States to enter the war was Japan attacking us, and Japan was attacking us because we refused to sell them any more oil because they were blowing up little kids in China.
Okay, and so the sanction was good or bad?
I mean, I think that one's much more defensible than all of this, like, total sanctions. And also, Japan was doing much worse things than communist Cuba ever did.
Sure. Anyway, I guess my point is a targeted sanction for something like oil. I mean, of course, right, oil drives a whole economy. It's not just for the military, but in the case of Japan in World War II, seems reasonable to stop selling them oil.
Right, yeah. Cuba was not in this situation at any point, right? So this is monstrous. That's what I'm saying. Like, you're like, this is an alternative to war, but war should never have been considered in this case.
Yeah, I guess it's not. So yeah, so just this is because they nationalized their oil.
And
basically,
sugar.
And sugar.
Because they didn't want to stay in poverty while Americans took all of the resources and money, right? Not that unreasonable.
Yep.
So anyway, the Kennedy administration set up a Cuba task force, which had the CIA and military and State Department representation. They decided to adopt a public posture of ignoring Castro while attacking civilian targets inside Cuba. And has a quote, "Our covert activities would now be directed toward the destruction of targets important to the Cuban economy." And this resulted in Operation Mongoose, which is when the CIA basically funded Cuban exiles and supplied them to commit basically just random terrorist attacks inside Cuba. They did things like burn down a department store, attack mines or sugar mills, or basically whatever they could get to.
Jesus,
so again,
we're
really,
like Al-Qaeda. Like,
well, we were funding Al-Qaeda
okay.
and training
Which
them,
we also
which
did.
Ironically, interestingly,
yeah. So yeah, God, we got what a track record, man. We just love mujahideens. We love blowing up department stores.
And so all of the, like, a
Weddings
lot
and
of
shit.
these documents have been declassified. And so you can go look at this, all the discussions they had. And so at one point they're discussing whether they should use chemical or biological weapons to destroy the agriculture sector in Cuba's economy. And then there's this one of them is just no, we can't do that. Chemical weapons are too traceable. But maybe we can make one of these biological weapons look like a natural origin. They're not wait, this is fucked up. They're just okay, we can't do this because we'll get caught, right? It's just holy fuck, dude.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? So we've crossed a line at this point, right? That's not justified. Why aren't we attacking Castro? Why was that never? If we're mad at Castro, why aren't we attacking Castro?
Wait, that leads perfectly into my next point, which is in August 1960, the CIA contacted the Cosa Nostra, or more commonly known as the Mafia, in Chicago.
No, I don't know what you're talking about. That doesn't exist.
With the intention to draft simultaneous assassinations of Fidel Castro, Raul Castro, and Che Guevara. In exchange, if the operation were a success and a pro-U.S. government were restored in Cuba, the CIA agreed that the Mafia would get their monopoly on gaming, prostitution, and drugs.
In Chicago?
In Cuba.
Speaking of Imperial Japan, this is the exact same deal the Yakuza got in Korea, by the way. They fulfilled some contract there, and they also got monopoly over certain trades within Korea.
Right. So the CIA at this point is you may be sex trafficking and you may be murdering, but at least you're not a communist. So let's hang out, right? Help me assassinate this guy for trying to help his people.
How far did this plan go?
This is America at its worst, man.
Yeah.
It's there's
okay,
some amount. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
fine.
Sorry. Before you say America at its worst, I wasn't sure where to put this in, but that's the perfect segue. Here we go. So this is the end of the Wikipedia summary of the coup in Guatemala that was orchestrated by the CIA. Described as the definitive death blow to democracy in Guatemala, the coup was widely criticized internationally and strengthened long-lasting anti-U.S. sentiment in Latin America. Attempting to justify the coup, the CIA launched Operation PB History, which sought evidence of Soviet influence in Guatemala, but found none. Castillo Armas quickly assumed dictatorial powers, banning opposition parties, executing, imprisoning, and torturing political opponents, and reversing social reforms of the revolution. In the first few months after the coup, his government executed many supporters of Arbenz, with estimates ranging from hundreds to 5,000. Political assassinations of enemies of the new regime had been planned by the CIA prior to the coup. Castillo Armas was assassinated by a member of his bodyguard in 1957, and then beginning in 1960, the Civil War erupted, lasting until 1996 as leftist guerrillas fought a series of U.S.-backed authoritarian regimes whose brutalities included genocide of the Maya peoples.
Jesus.
The beginning is actually somehow worse than that, by the way. But so I'm sure there are many other YouTubers who have done an episode about that coup, so maybe go check out one of those. I bet there are some sick ones, but I don't want to do a whole episode on it right now. But yeah, absolutely, this is the U.S. at its worst, this post-communist or post-World War II John Foster Dulles era.
I mean, just post-Monroe, basically. That we've been acting like we're the boss of Central, South America, and the Caribbean since the 1800s.
But I don't even just mean that these are the worst actions that the U.S. has taken. That's not really what I mean. I just mean that this attitude or this motivation for the U.S. government is the U.S. at its worst. What is the U.S.? It's a country. It's a democracy.
It's a
so in
democratic
that
republic,
sense,
actually.
Yes, of course.
Certain members within the homeland get to enjoy it as a representative democracy.
Right. It has this mechanism that should enable it to represent our collective values, to be a project of the for by the people.
All right, here's a real info hazard. Maybe it does.
Yeah, maybe it does. But I don't think so. I mean, look, no, I don't think so. I think this is, in this case, this is covert. This is inside the CIA supporting the interests of American oil companies.
Actually, it was a fruit company in this case, in the Guatemala case.
Yeah, and sugar companies and all. Yeah, okay,
yeah,
and the mafia. So that's what I'm saying is that this motivation of the USA, which is just to further entrench or to further hold up already entrenched power, is this is the dark side of what America is. And this is so infuriating and undermines the whole project.
But it is continuing the tradition of under which the country was founded. Like
Right, exactly.
An aristocratic revolt to further entrench the muddied interest of the country.
Right. So
Yeah.
this tension has existed from the very beginning. That's right.
So there's two Americas. There's the America that we say that we are, and we kind of, I hope we want to be, and then there's the
we
America that we
aspire
actually
to, or we teach our kids that we should be aspiring to, and then there's the reality on the ground that I would hope we are fighting against. This isn't good. I don't love the fact that all these things are happening. I don't love all the stuff that the CIA got up to with the School of the Americas and the legacy of coups and the starvation and blowing up department stores and all of that. Like, this is all bad, but there isn't like a clear path from electing a representative to then we stop doing all this spycraft bullshit. So how does one address this?
Well,
Is an interesting question.
I think that there is some. I think that the people of the Democratic Socialist bent are genuinely against this, and some significant portion of the Democratic Party is against this. Some very minor portion of the Republican Party is against this, and totaling probably a majority, but just not unified around this sort of thing, distracted by too many other things.
One of those fun times when we're on the same side of the issue as Marjorie Taylor Greene. The more conspiratorial wing of the Republican Party is like, yeah, we'll take down the CIA, right? And then the space lasers will get turned off or whatever. It's like, okay, well, sure, whatever you said.
We can work that one out later.
Right.
Yeah. So I did look it up for this, and a majority of Americans do disapprove of the Cuban embargo. It's like 40% disapprove, 32% approve.
And the rest are like, what? Cuba?
Yeah. The rest is where, what
I think
now?
that don't know is way too small. This is thrown off by the people, like the opt-in nature of a survey, like people who cared enough to respond. And bless you, the honest American responding with "I don't know." Kudos.
I mean, it could just be neither approve nor disapprove or whatever. But and actually, so interestingly, the continuation of this policy is often cited as a result of Cuban exiles all moving to Florida and then bitterly hang on to the idea of returning and therefore pushing for a very anti-Castro policy. And since Florida is a battleground state with close presidential margins, then this policy persists because they cater to those voters.
Good. Well, the Democrats should be ready to abandon this now because Florida is not a battleground state. It's been Republican by more than 10 points for a while, right?
Yeah. And also, interestingly, support for this among Cuban Americans is actually not that high. It's only 55%. So for such you got to secure this voting bloc, it's actually not that unified of a bloc on this issue. I was surprised to learn.
Yeah.
I kind of assumed they would all be very pro-embargo, but it's not the case.
It is kind of interesting how that gets simplified. Like, well, if it's 55%, then that's the voting bloc you can capture, and I guess that's technically true. But the world is complicated, and if you're electing a national leader to the United States, you kind of have to concern yourself with the world. So every single thing gets simplified into like as small as you can, micro focus to like the small majority that we can capture and then move on. You just don't get that kind of, you don't get nuance with your policy if you're just focusing on winning the election.
So, question, would it be crazy for the US to just stop where we were talking about whatever backing out over the tire spikes? It seems like for decades the only American president who came close to it was Obama. Would it make sense to just, I don't know, what kind of a deal was he working on, and like how bad would it be to just like end the embargo?
Honestly,
today?
I think we could just end it anytime. So also, every single year, the United Nations votes on a resolution to condemn the embargo. And every single country votes in favor, basically, except the United States and one
With the
other
Security
country.
Council veto?
Israel?
What's the other country? Wait.
Can you guess?
Wait.
Is it Israel?
Okay.
Well, no.
The
I
UK.
bet I can get
Israel's
it. I bet I
your
can get it. I
guess.
bet I can get it. It's something funny. Is it Morocco?
It's Israel.
Okay. Israel. Fuck. Okay. Damn it.
You said that so confidently, and I was like, nope, yep, yeah. Israel always votes with the U.S. in favor of, not condemning.
All right.
And then occasionally a random other country sucking up to the U.S. will like vote for it 1 year or whatever.
Yeah, just like randomly Indonesia.
Actually,
or something
Trump
like that.
managed to get like 5 little countries to vote for it a couple of years ago because they were like, trying to get some U.S. aid or whatever.
Thanks, Lesotho.
North Macedonia is the only one I remember off the top of my head.
That is a small country.
North Macedonia.
Oh boy, that's a little sliver of territory.
Danny, we always come to you for a ray of sunshine. What
does Transnistria think of this policy? Probably not. They're probably very against it, actually, because they're a Soviet holdover.
Yeah, so basically that's where we are with it. The U.S. just kind of continues on with this fucking shit-ass foreign policy. Almost it kind of seems like out of momentum or apathy. It's just like, oops, we left the orphan crushing machine on for 60 years. I guess we'll turn it off now. Or we won't because the switch is on the other side of the room. And I'm so comfy on the couch.
You know what would happen
if
we stop? You know what would happen? Probably if American businesses were allowed back into the country, they would go right back to dominating the country.
Yep. We're only shooting ourselves in the foot here. In terms
what are
of
we
like,
afraid
even
of?
if you're like a hardline anti-communist and you want Cuba to not be communist, I feel like the best way to do that is to let capitalism compete with them.
If you're a hardline capitalist, like, have you no faith in capital's ability to exploit labor?
Yeah, so
actually, they would go back to doing that.
The main lobby in favor of ending the embargo is the United States agriculture business. They donate lots of money trying to fight this, trying to open up that market again.
They'd go back in and take over the farms, buy them out like they bought out local farms.
So is this in the president's unilateral authority? Probably.
So there's a whole bunch of laws.
Foreign policy.
Actually, also Congress just passed a bunch of laws about this, even this specifically because why miss a chance to piss on Latin America?
They're like, we're not going to make any new laws to
wait.
But we're not going to force Trump to give us a reason for invading Iran. We're not going to prevent him from invading Greenland, but we're going to make sure that he keeps the clamp squeeze on Cuba.
So actually, he did declare for this oil executive order that prevents them from even getting oil. He did declare it a national emergency, dude, because, Cuba is such a big threat to the United States.
Wild.
It's like even if you gave every single Cuban a gun and let them into America and none of us fought back, like how many Americans would each Cuban have to kill in order to win the fight? Right? We're just so much bigger than them. Like if they invaded, we might not even notice.
Are you saying that Red Dawn is somewhat unrealistic?
Yeah, but that was clearly not Cuba that invaded, dude.
It was Cuba.
Was it? And Red Dawn? Was it really Cuba?
that was the invading force. It was Cuba. Isn't that great?
Well, there you go.
And then they remade Red Dawn, and you know who invaded?
I thought it was North Korea, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
they somehow got across the ocean.
Yeah, right. It's like
patrolled by the U.S. Navy.
Damn, that movie sounds good.
All right, but so if you have a creative vision for a high school team who unites to fight the invading communists, right? There's not really any way you can narratively justify that makes sense. You kind of just have to be invaded because reasons, and they didn't get stopped because of other reasons.
It would be more realistic if they were invaded by fucking orcs, dude.
All right, Danny.
Yeah.
Wrap us up like a cigar.
Yeah. So basically, like David said, what would be the consequences of stopping this? It would be better for basically everybody. This is even if you're in favor of decommunizing Cuba and getting rid of their regime, it's worse than a crime. It's a mistake territory. If you go look at the criticism of this, a lot of the critics are the people who are in charge of putting this policy in place in the first place. They were all like, actually, this is stupid. It didn't fucking work. And yet here we are still doing the same fucking thing, expecting it to work.
Yeah. Also, you know what happened last time we slightly opened up to Cuba? Americans went on vacation there. That was about the biggest effect of that was people took Instagram posts in front of Cuban landmarks and then it got shut down again. So, yeah, that's about it.
Let's end this bullshit. If you're a Donald Trump supporter.
I thought you meant this episode.
Well, yeah, that too.
Oh, sorry.
We're ending all sorts of bullshit right now, dude. Yeah. So if you're voting in a Republican district, contact your representative and tell them to stop this bullshit.
Dude, can't lay this on the Republicans, really.
Well, this time, I mean, Obama was thawing and Trump flipped the turnaround.
Did Biden change it back?
Biden kind of wishy-washied. He opened it a little and he closed it a little.
Right. This doesn't seem to be all that partisan an issue. This is entrenched powers, and in the U.S., the name of the two entrenched powers are Republican and Democrat.
That's true. It was John F. Kennedy that started all this in the first place, dude. Yeah. And that's been another commie-fearing episode of Info Hazard. Feel free to like, subscribe, leave a comment, end the Cuba embargo. We'll see
Feel
you
free
tomorrow.
to end the Cuban embargo if you have the power to do so.
Yeah. Like, subscribe, comment, end the embargo.
Yeah. I figured I'd toss it in there. If they're doing the other three, maybe I'll trick them into doing the fourth one.
I heard Donald watches our show. I mean...
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Don.
Ball's in your court, DJT.